meeting for June 13th, 2023 to order, starting a little late at 7:03. We can rise and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Trustee Barkowski? Here. Trustee Gilbert?
Here.
Trustee Guerrero? Here. Trustee Nona?
Here.
Trustee Tripoli?
Here.
Trustee Succi?
Here.
President Myson?
Here.
Treasurer Nolan Gilbert?
Here.
And Clerk Woodson is present.
Approval of the agenda. I, for once, do not have any amendments to make, I don't believe. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to add or amend? Okay, seeing none,
I'll move to approve the agenda as presented.
Support.
been approved and, motion been and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, public comment on the agenda?
Good evening. My name is Susan Howard. I am the Senior VP of the VFW Auxiliary at Stryber McVicker Post 2052 in Romeo. I am here tonight to follow up on my letter asking the Village of New Haven to become a part of the Purple Heart Trail. This is my granddaughter Liliana. She is holding my husband's Purple Heart Medal. Gary earned it on April 28, 1969, just outside of Khe Sanh, South Vietnam. 2 enemy soldiers displayed a satchel charge on his company. 6 men died that day. Numerous others were injured. While preparing for another attack, the 2 enemy soldiers were shot and killed by a soldier from Company A that had been standing off to the side and witnessed the attack. These special veterans rarely speak of the event that earned them this prestigious medal. Therefore, we need to find another way to show them that their sacrifice is not forgotten. By proclaiming the Village of New Haven a Purple Heart community, you will be showing the Purple Heart veterans and their families that you will never forget the high price that they have paid.
Your community is unique, situated in a high-traffic area, giving you the ability to reach many of the veterans and their families. Please proclaim the Village of New Haven a Purple Heart community. Thank you.
Any other public comment on the agenda? Okay. Approval of the minutes. Council meeting minutes for May 9th, 2023.
So,
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Special meeting minutes for May 30th, 2023.
so moved.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda.
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Support.
Moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Payment of the bills, treasurer's report.
Approval of May 2023 payroll of $70,609.98 and bills to be paid for June 2023 in the amount of $206,760.62 for a total of $277,370.60.
I'll move that we pay the bills in the amount of $277,370.60.
Support?
Comment on the motion? Or are you good?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Trustee Burkholly?
Yes.
Trustee Setching?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Domkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
President Mason?
Yes. Treasurer's report?
I'll move that we receive and file the treasurer's report.
Total village monies of $5,242,662.12.
Our treasurer only gets to say 2 lines.
Not even a vote.
Now motion's in order.
I'll move that we receive and file the treasurer's report.
Support. Roll call, please.
You want to go on that? You want me to?
It's financial. Do we do roll call?
Just receive it and file it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Communication committee reports. Clerk.
The items for the July agenda are due by the beginning of July, please.
Planning Commission, Trustee Gilbert.
Yes, the planning commission met and we approved a lot split. 57914 Main lot split. But it needs formal approval by the council. The engineering and planning reviews were included in your packet. Should have been included in the packet.
It was. It's agenda item C under new business.
Anything else?
And we're going to get action on that. And the other one was, through some conversation we had, we're asking council to include the village engineer and planner in site plan reviews for our single builds. They're automatically included in our PUDs. But we have a couple of individual houses being built, and we weren't sure if the engineering and planning was involved in that, and if the final grades were being set. But in talking with our building inspector, these things were being done, or are being done. Okay. He just doesn't charge the village for doing them. But he's not opposed to us including the engineer and the planner in this process. Now, there would be an additional fee that would be paid by the builder. But like, we have a couple of single homes being built to our community, and we just want to make sure that all the proper things are being done as far as final grades and drainage and stuff like that. So we're going to need action on both of these items.
And that one is item number E.
Yep.
Okay. Alrighty, Parks and Rec report, Trustee Burwell.
Well, thank you first and foremost for this past Saturday. We had a family that helped volunteer with the new boat shelter. So thank you to the family and to DPW for helping us with that. All the events are listed on the website now, like Music in the Park, the Red Cotton Blue Festival's on there, Music in the Park. Those are all on the guys' page for the which is good. And also we're just talking about some trips, we're trying to figure out these finances with the smart transportation, things like that. We have a couple of ideas like Cedar Point, Frankenmuth, but again, we're trying to discuss at the next meeting, how we go about funding and all that.
Okay. Unfinished business. Item A, Parks and Rec event pay resolution. So, I think we actually did this one as this was not part of the agenda packet, but was sent separately via email. Did everybody get a copy of that? It was sent on June 8th. So what we are doing is, for Parks and Rec, it would be a resolution for compensating Parks and Recreation Committee members for attendance at village-sponsored events. We have that the chairperson and co-chairperson shall be compensated at the rate of $60 per event for attendance at the events. And then we also added a stipulation that other Parks and Recreation Department members shall, upon the approval of the village board, be compensated at the rate of 60 per event for attendance. So the thought with that was that, as we discussed last month, is that if we have a big event like Red Hot and Blue Festival where you have all hands on deck, council can motion that everybody be reimbursed for working the event. But typically, the movie night in the park or music in the park, it's just the chair and the co-chair who's working that event. So it would just be the two individuals that would be paid. Any questions?
Do you have a resolution number?
2023-007.
Our treasurer has a question.
Actually, last year, the chair and co-chair very seldom came.
Just one.
There were other people that were part of the Parks and Recs that were
Right.
those events.
Well,
That's where it's designated.
Yeah.
I think for the event, they were gonna designate a chair and co-chair, not the co-chair and chair of the actual Parks and Rec
Correct,
Commission.
yes, yeah.
So this resolution would compensate those individuals who ran, we could compensate the individuals that actually ran the event?
Right, it's to compensate, yeah. So when we say chair and co-chair, we don't mean of the overall Parks and Rec Commission as a whole, it would be of that event specifically. Every event, Parks and Rec actually assigns a chairperson to be in charge of that event.
I thought the resolution was to establish pay for the Park and Rec Committee members.
Correct, yes. So it would be the Parks and Rec Committee members that are working the event.
No.
There's
Pay-
already an ordinance that establishes the Parks and Rec to be paid to
Okay.
sit on the board.
Okay, that's what I
Yes.
needed to clarify.
Yes.
This is for event attendance.
Right, so we already have it in place that Parks and Rec does get paid for their meetings
Okay.
that they attend.
They attend.
And then this resolution, 2023, what was it? Dash
007.
007, thank you. So 2023-007, this one is to pay the chairperson and the co-chairperson of a specific event for their time actually running and, planning and running the event. At the rate of the $60. So basically, we're paying them the same rate that we would for a meeting. Any other questions? Motion to vote?
So I will make a motion for a resolution, to adopt resolution 2023-007, resolution to compensate Parks and Recreation Committee members for attendance at village-sponsored events.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Since there's a dollar amount that's attached to this, will you do roll call, please?
Trustee Dombrowski?
Yes.
Trustee Fauci?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Trustee Nona?
Yes.
Trustee Perpoli?
Yes.
And President Bison.
Yes. Item B, Manning Drive street rehab bid results. So Matt, did you want to speak to this real quick?
Sure.
So good evening. I believe you received my communication with the results and recommendation for award. We did receive 5 responsive bids, and James P. Contracting was the lowest at $802,000. And the highest bid was Paymar Enterprises at $916,000. Looking at the current market prices, actually the bid prices are in line. So unfortunately, council approved a lower budget last year. However, we are recommending that the village approve James P. Contracting the award to rehab Manning Drive for $800,000, $802,314.50 as the low bidder. This contractor we've worked in the past in the village, and they've performed very well.
Any questions for Sinead?
Do we have any,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
do we have any grants that we are applying for in conjunction with this project?
Not for many. We did submit 2 other grants, but not for 2 different other streets for next year.
Yeah, we considered trying to apply Manning to the Category B funding, but if I remember correctly, we were too far through the process to be able to, and it would also then delay it. Did you have a question?
Catch basins, because we just did some catch basins unmanned. And does this contract include any other that may,
Yeah, there were a couple that were not addressed last time, so we are touching them with this contract.
and this is the same process of milling
Yes, we will be taking the top 3 inches
concrete? I mean, yeah, concrete.
concrete. Some areas will have to be replaced full depth, but basically mill the top 3 inches and then repaving with asphalt. This time we're going to use a binder to strengthen the asphalt because of the traffic count on Manning is much higher than the other streets. And I've heard many municipalities that they like that asphalt fiber just by extending the length of the overlay. So usually they're anywhere between 3 to 5 years. Hopefully this one will extend it a few years more than that.
And this is Manning from Maine to
Maine to north of Margot,
Redford?
shy of Redford.
This one, I think the approach that we did a couple of years ago.
No.
It's from that approach.
From the
where that
approach.
project
No,
came
no.
on.
Yes.
Marla or Margot?
Margot. Did I say Marla? I'm sorry.
Marco.
Margot.
Yeah, right before Redford, the Pazer rating, if I remember correctly,
Yeah.
was pretty favorable.
And that's a fairly new stretch to there.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a new stretch. It's in better shape. We are crack sealing the old section, so that prolong that part of the pavement north of
The
our
old
project.
section of Manning? The untouched section of Manning?
Yeah, Weathervane and Redford.
Redford to Weathervane?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, I was walking it the other day and I see that it could use some attention as far as cracks.
So all the way to Margot? All the way to Margot?
From north of Margot to Weathervane.
For
No, I
the
mean-
crack ceiling is what he's talking
Yeah,
about.
crack ceiling.
For our bid, this is from the apron that was just redone at the entrance of Rooney Sub all the way up to just past Marco.
Okay.
So the crack ceiling is part of this bid?
Yes. So we're going to do Weathervane Drive, the entire length, north of where we stop at Manning to Weathervane, and then the bad side of Redford, which is the two western third.
What other work has James P. Contracting done for us recently?
Let's see. They've done Margot and James P. Drive. James Garden, I'm sorry.
Did you do Marlin?
And Marla, Midfield, and Redford. Correct.
And James P. did all of those? I only ask because I generally, when I see 5 bids, I personally tend to shy away from a low bid, but if we've done extensive work with them in the past, it lessens my concern.
Very reputable firm. We've dealt with them for over 25 years.
I think the only other question that I would have, Ms. Kazel, the funding of this for the 800 and 2,000,
We budgeted in the highway fund.
we would take it out of the highway fund?
Correct.
And that has the balance of over $1 million.
Yeah.
With the, I think we're at $1,011,000 right now that we have budgeted towards the highway fund. I think it, what's that? Right now, we have a budget of $1,055,000 of expenditures in there, which will be a net of $657,000 to there, and we still have an imbalance of $400,000 in the highway fund after we get our money from taxes this year. We should be getting $397,000 approximately, probably more, since I don't have the new tax numbers. And so we will still have $400,000 in the highway fund with last year's numbers. So it only can increase now, so does that make sense?
What was the revenue that was coming in?
It's still based on last year's number, $397,000. Our expenditures are $1,055,000. That's not the only project in there. We have 800 for this project and no, there's something, another project in there that we have budgeted for also. I don't remember at this time, sorry. Yes, there we go. There we go, that's it.
Was that fully funded from that fund, or did we have some?
We had grants for that, part of that.
I mean, our portion of it, it wasn't all coming out of one fund, though, right? Isn't it divvied up because of 27-mile portion of it?
The 27 Gresham is also coming out of the highway fund.
Okay, the whole thing?
The whole thing.
Okay.
So those are the two projects.
Any other questions? Motions in order?
I'll make a motion that we approve James P. Contracting for the rehab of Manning
Support.
at the,
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
at the cost of $802,314.50.
Support.
It's been properly moved and supported. Roll call, please.
Trustee Delbert?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yeah.
Trustee Pavoli?
Yes.
Trustee Sachi?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
President Myson?
Yes.
Thank you.
New business. Item A, general operating millage. So, I'm sorry, I'm just opening up the PDF file. So, currently our 2022 taxes are 9.48750 for general, 1.85000 for highway, 0.41250 for cemetery, and I'll stop there since the next one is item B. So I know at our public hearing, we had some discussion about whether or not we want to keep it the same or not. I will open it up for discussion.
Well, I'll begin, because late last year I proposed dropping our general fund millage by an entire mil. I saw that all of our financials were, as the village was, the population was increasing, our income was increasing faster than what we were spending it. And I mentioned at the public hearing that I was critical of how we were spending money personally and as a council, that we were doing it, on an irresponsible side. And coupling those two factors together, I think we should reduce it to about 9 mils, both to alleviate the cost of living in the village and to force us to look more diligently at how we are spending the residents' money. And it's at 9, lowering it from 9.4875 to 9 is about a $70,000 to $75,000 hit to our budget. And I still think that even with that, we can absorb that. And as I mentioned earlier at the public hearing, even if we did that, we would still have the highest general fund balance that we've had in the last 5 years, even with that decrease. So it's not, we will not be in a position that we weren't ever in before.
I just want to say I totally agree.
Okay.
Dare-
Somebody do it.
Dare I say it, but do you want to do the full mill still?
I'm not opposed to a full mill.
I'm not opposed to it either.
Guess my only concern, and I'm sure we can absorb it, because I don't hear Mrs. Kazel back there kicking and screaming, but I would have to go back to the Manning, because we're spending so much on Manning because we did not apply nor receive a grant to help with Manning. So we're gonna put the whole bill for Manning, that if we go a full mill, are you?
If you say that, I mean, right now, with last year's numbers, that's $140,000.
Okay.
This is 70 for a half. That's $140,000. If our taxable income comes in, I don't know what, we've been going 10 to 11% increase in our taxable values. So that's done another $143,000 times, that could be another $25,000, $30,000. So that's, now we're up to 100,000 is a half. Well, let me take that back. 55,000, 70,000 plus 15 is 85,000. If we do a full, it's gonna be 100, what do we say?
A little over 140,000.
140,000 plus another 30. So that's $180,000. Now mind you, we still have a fund balance policy of 25 to 30% of our expenditures. So if we take that $130,000 away from our revenue, are we gonna be able to support us keeping a fund balance of 25 to 30% of that expenditures?
Well, like you said, things are gonna continue to increase, because I know with the most recent census numbers, our Act 51 money is going up. That's all based on population.
It is already based on, we already had that averaged out already. We already got the extra money already for that.
Okay.
Act 51, we're only getting $467,000 this year for what's that, major, and 185 for local.
Okay.
So that's what we're doing that. And the reason why we're not doing Manning on local, because we get $185,000, we only get like 350, 360 in the fund balance there for the local.
Like I said, I don't have a problem with doing a full mill, because it will require us to spend a little more time and pay closer attention to our expenses. Because right now we have, I don't want to say so much money, but we have enough money that we just spend it.
And even at that 180,000, I'd have to look, because I don't remember the number offhand, but we would still be at one of the highest general fund budgets that we've had in the last 5 years. Maybe not last year, but definitely in the 4 years before that. So we won't be in a position where we weren't in before, and we got from there to here just fine.
Okay, excuse me. You guys are talking about capital improvements and stuff like that. We're having issues with this building. All sorts of expenses are coming up that we have not even allocated to the budget. So that's one of my concerns. What are we going to do with this building? We still haven't got any information on what's going on with this building. We have equipment that's failing that we're going to have to replace in here next year. You hear talk about a fire truck and stuff like that that needs to be allocated for us. So, there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike, even though you guys, we have the following capital improvement, and we have roads to do, and the pays are raising and stuff like that, we have a lot of expenses coming up. Yeah, we've been hoarding money, for lack of a better word, hoarding money, but in the same token too, this year we're gonna wipe out the highway fund. And we only get $187,000 a year for the highway fund. It might go up to 200 this year, to tax.
When it comes to capital expenditures, such as equipment, I think it's the responsibility of those budgets to set aside. We have to do it, but they have to be responsible enough to set aside a portion of their budget in their capital improvement fund, so that 5 years down the road, we have that lump sum of money. You know, I mean, every department has a budget, and they have to live within it.
Yeah, I mean, I was really apprehensive about lowering based off of Manning Street, but since Manning Street is all coming out of highway fund, I mean, it definitely, it makes me feel a little bit more at ease that it's not having to come out of general.
And Manning is a major project too. I mean, we don't have, a lot of our projects are local projects, that's a major project that we're doing.
And if we would have done that one correctly from the start, we would have had grant funding, hopefully, well, assuming that we would have done it.
At least a portion of it.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with 1 mil.
I would be as well.
Who's gonna make a motion?
At some point, we're gonna have to review the fire mill too, because they're not gonna be able to live within that budget with a growing community. So at some point, that's gonna have to be discussed. In other words, it's gonna have to get supplemented from the general fund. $70,000 isn't really gonna make a big difference, but
I'm trying to give you an opportunity.
Oh. I guess I'll move to set the general operating millage for the Village of New Haven. General fund, 8.475, highway fund, 1.85, and cemetery at 0.4125.
Support.
And just for discussion on the motion, just for clarification, general fund, what was it that you said it was?
8.4875.
I think you might have missed a digit when you said it the first time.
Did I?
No, I wrote it down as he was saying it.
Oh, okay, all right. I misheard, thank you. All right.
Mr. Succi, that equates to $143,421.88, correct?
Based on the taxable value of $143,421,882, that would be correct.
Okay.
From last year.
Which was last year, but you know it's gonna go up this year.
Right, right, so it will actually be, okay.
All right. Any other discussion on the motion?
I'll say that if we're doing this, then we seriously do have to look at this capital improvement plan and actually have a plan and a vision going forward if we're going to do something like this, because I've seen it twice that finances got mismanaged in the village, and it hurts for a long time. It takes a long time to get out of this hole, so.
Sounds like we have a volunteer to do a CIP committee workshop. Any other discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
Trustee Succi?
Yes.
And President Mason.
Yes. Item number B, fire special assessment millage. Currently, we are at 3, and the proposal for 2023 is to keep it at 3. Motion or discussion? Technically, we should have a motion first anyway.
Yes, we should.
I'll move to set the fire millage rate at 3 mils.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion on the motion.
I just want to note that the 3 mils is the maximum that was allowable by the vote of the village.
It was. It's been in place now for 20 years, 25 years, something. Been a while.
Yeah, there has been some discussion about the fire budget and what is sustainable with that three mills. You know, our fire chief has been kind of raising the alarm, no pun intended, of, possibly needing to look for a ballot initiative to allow for a higher millage amount. The alternative, as Trustee Bonkowski mentioned, would be to supplement the budget with our general fund. But those are all, things of consideration. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call.
Trustee Polly?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Succi?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
And President Bison?
Yes. Item number C, lot split, parcel number 26-06-33-259-008, which I believe was Main, who were saying that was Main Street?
Main Street.
Sorry. Closed my window here. Did you want to walk us through this one, the lot split or the recommendation, or I'm sorry, let's see, Rachel, are you the one that's talking us through this?
Well, I wrote the memo, just letting you guys know that we held a public hearing in May on the Planning Commission for 57914 Main Street. The lot is currently like an L-shaped, and it's just to like split it in half, so the one stays on Main Street and the other one's on, I think that was Lincoln. And the Planning Commission voted to approve it, it just needs council approval for them to move forward with the building.
The two new lots, they are conforming
Yes.
as far as size. They meet all required widths and
Setbacks.
Yeah, both engineering and planning did not have any objection to this lot split.
Motion in order?
I move to approve the lot split for 5957914 Main Street.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Do we need a roll call for that, since it's a lot split?
I don't think so. It's always safer to do roll calls.
Being advised, it's always safer to do roll calls, so let's do a roll call.
Trustee Polly?
Yes.
Trustee Succi?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
And President Bison?
Yes. All right, item number D, set ZBA public hearing, 58510 Main Street. 58510 Main Street, they put in a variance request for our sign ordinance. So they are requesting that we do a ZBA public hearing, since our council is the ZBA body. I would propose either we could just have it before the July meeting.
That's what we did last one.
Everybody okay with that?
You need a motion?
To set a public hearing, yeah.
I make a motion to set a public hearing on July 11th. Is that the right date? At 6:30?
Yes.
For a ZBA public hearing.
Support.
Moved and supported, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Passes. Number E, or letter E, Planning Commission, new builds recommendation. Trustee Dilbert.
Well, as I said earlier, it's been suggested that our engineer and our planner be involved in our single builds that are occurring around the village. Not knowing, when we had a discussion at planning, we didn't know that the building inspector was actually doing those jobs as far as final grades and preliminary grades, final grades and whatnot. He's been doing it all along at no cost to the village, but he's not opposed to including the engineer and our planner. There will be some additional costs to the builder to cover their fees. So, Planning Commission would just like to recommend that we include the engineer and the planner in any new builds that occurs throughout the community, single bill to me.
And if I remember correctly, Becky provided me with some numbers. It was the fee for the site review would go from 35 to a little over 1,000.
That was for the site plan review residential. But the plot plan review, Surmet says all they would need. And that is considerably lower. It's only like $300 or $400.
Does our fee schedule already spell that out, or are we gonna have to
Yes.
adjust that?
So
It's already spelled out, okay.
Would we, is this just a recommendation of like how do we?
Of planning, it's a recommendation from planning to council.
So, and, I mean, are we would just make a motion to approve or
Yeah.
approve that recommendation?
I think we could,
Don't need a resolution or anything like that.
you know, I don't think so.
All right. Motion in order to approve the
And one
recommendation.
more question. But that'll be done administratively, that'll get handled, right? It won't have to go to planning?
No,
Because it adds time.
No.
I was trying to, okay,
No.
perfect,
it's all internal.
perfect, thank you.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I know one thing that Chairwoman Rozak mentioned to me was just to differentiate that it's the planner and engineering that's reviewing it, not planning commission.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just, that's a good way to month.
This almost feels like a non-negotiable to me, like this should probably be in place, should have been in place.
It's, and according to the plan, most communities have this in place.
Okay.
Should it be done by resolution to make it more, have more teeth maybe, I guess? Or is it?
It's kind of like a process formality, I guess, process change that we're asking for.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, I believe the planner's contract already says that they would review the plot plans. And then I think also maybe even in Surmet's, it also says it. So it's actually something that they all already
Everything's in
have
place,
to
but
do.
we're not doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's already listed in your ordinance. I'm sorry. It's already listed in your E-code. That process is already there, but never been followed.
So we're just motioning to start following it.
Yeah.
And the thing is more of a direction from
Sure.
the department, to the department from
Yeah,
who they report
follow
to.
this, yeah.
Correct.
All right. Yeah, based off of what Surmet just gave us, it sounds like we don't even need to have a council vote. It's just that we will give the direction to planning commission and to our building department, really to our building department, that moving forward, you know, to include planner and our engineer. Okay. Item F, pickleball courts. So Dawn went and Ms. Raz went out and received some quotes for pickleball courts. Definitely something that has been, if you are or not familiar with it, pickleball has been pretty popular lately. It's been really taking off. I was actually at Macomb Partners meeting today, and the Metro Parks were talking about how they're adding pickleball courts to their Metro Parks. And Shelby Township Supervisor was very adamant that he gets a lot of questions and inquiries from his residents about pickleball courts. I would have assumed that this is something that would also be welcomed by our residents as well. The three quotes that we have, the two quotes that we have one from Everline Coating and Services. Their quotes, I'm scrolling through them, they are going, so both of the quotes are to restripe the basketball courts, and then also then do the pickleball court within the basketball court, kind of between the 3 point lines. So it'd be a court within a court. With Everline, the first quote, in addition, so they have the line striping at $1,370, $1,370 for the basketball courts. The pickleball courts they have for $430. So the total for that was $1,800. They also talked about crack filling because the basketball court asphalt is kind of getting into a little bit of need of repair. So their quote for that was $1,030. And then they also talked about multiple 3-foot by 6-foot areas could use hot mix asphalt repair to level the playing surface, which then was $1,150. So all in on that one, I think, if I remember correctly, and I'll do the math again
It's
here.
$3,980.
Thank you, yes, sir. $20 below the village president's limit. But because we're talking about an amenity to the village, I felt like this should come before council. I didn't want to just rubber stamp and approve it, even though it was within that $4,000 limit. The other quote that we had was for USA Pickleball. And they, let's see, where was the dollar amount on that one? I'm sorry, that was probably in the original, in the letter.
I don't see it.
Sorry, Brian, it's TNT parking, $1,200 just for striping. They don't do repairs. I don't think they have the means to do repairs that would be necessary. I've walked up there several times and looked at the lines and everything as far as the cracks. And if we could do the repairs, I think it would be great for everybody to start off fresh. But it's up to you guys whether you just want to strike it right now and see if they come to play, or if you just want to make repairs and do the $39.80.
Have you got any requests for pickleball?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, I believe the reason why we went out to get the quotes was because it was part of that diagram of the future Parks and Rec amenities at the community park.
I agree with the basketball restriping and all that. And being part of Parks and Rec, I know I've heard of like horseshoe pits and things like that, but I'd never heard of pickleball. So I'll just question if you've got interest from other residents in Haven.
I know that it's something that I've heard of other residents that have been interested in it. Personally, my own son, he loves pickleball. He's been playing it in the backyard at the basketball court at New Haven Elementary.
Mine does too.
Yeah.
What about the net?
What about the nets? This is strictly lining. People would have to bring their own nets and gear. Nets are very portable. I have my own paddle, balls, everything's portable. Everybody has to bring them in. I did talk to Brian also that maybe at some point we could do it as a Parks and Rec event to have people come out and learn how to play. And then they would eventually want to buy their own equipment anyway.
Did you bring your own net?
Yes.
A majority of leagues that operate have somebody in charge of bringing the nets to wherever they may rent a court out of a gym. There's other communities in the area that do this as well, but usually there's somebody in charge of bringing that. It's very portable. Usually comes in a bag or something.
Okay.
It's pretty easy.
Yeah, when my son got into it, we went onto Amazon, and I want to say it was like $20-30. It was a full kit for pickleball.
Okay.
Yeah, portable net and then the paddles. Yeah.
So for these two bids, the second one I don't have in front of me, but you said it's $1,200. Is that to strike both the basketball court and the pickleball court? Because the pickleball court in the first quote is only $400.
I'm sorry?
The second quote, does that also include re-striping the basketball court?
Yes.
Yes, the second quote of $1,200 is just strictly restriking, adding the pickleball courts and restriking the basketball.
Because that's considerably less, the second quote, but the first quote also does the repair. So I think that's kind of where our question is at. Do we want to rehab the whole thing, or do we just to strike it? I would go with the second.
$3,800.
If you're going to play pickleball on a court that's got a bunch of cracks in it, it's probably not going to be a great time.
Yeah, it's not very easy. It's
I think that
probably
first quote is
used.
the way to go.
So the cost on the second quote for striping, which only includes striping, was $1,200.
Correct.
So that's 33% cheaper than the cost for striping through Everline. Is it possible to have Everline do the repairs, which the latter of the two bids did not offer us a quote on, and then have the company that's 33% cheaper do the striping separately. I'd be curious to know what the cost of striping is without,
I think those
or the cost
all
of repairs
have-
without the striping.
Yeah, Evermind was all inclusive. I think their price is $1,800. We can break that apart and just do lines only from Evermind for $1,800.
Yeah, I mean, because striping, we're talking about $600 in savings for striping, we're talking about 33% savings in striping. If Everline would just do the repairs, and then we can save $600 on striping, why wouldn't we, right?
Yeah, but I'm not sure that Evermind would go for that, but
That-
I can
that-
check with them.
That's why I'm at, yeah, and that may be the case, they may not be willing to do that unless we accept the entire bid, I don't know. I'd be curious to know that though.
You know, the fact that if they're gonna cut off some bad areas and they're gonna backfill, and I'm sure that's why they're striking, you know, their whole package is not a bad package, to be honest. It's only with 38,
39.80.
39.80.
And usually in those, when they bid like that, like the preparation time and all that is included, and it only is because they're doing those 3 separate projects, so they wouldn't charge you 3 times for it, so it's.
Right.
That's usually how you do that.
Do the motion?
So I only got one bid. Did everybody only get one bid?
So there was only one bid that was in the packet. I can forward it out. There was 2 bids that was in the email. It looks like one of them might have just got dropped off from the PDF. I know clerk was trying to keep everything into one file, so
Can you go make copies? I don't make copies.
Okay, yeah.
I don't need one, I just kind of
So we
lectured
had-
ourselves earlier about bids and things like that, so.
So we had 2. It's just that the second one was dropped from the packet.
Yeah, I got a second.
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah, Chris has the second one.
TNT.
Yeah. So it might have been just when his was printed out that they made sure to include the second one. It was just an oversight that it was left out of the PDF file.
And that other company doesn't do repairs, is that why it's not an apples to apples comparison, because they don't actually do that?
That's what she said.
Okay.
They didn't repair it, they just did the striping.
Motion in order?
I'll make a motion that we accept the bid from Everline for the repair and striping of the pickleball courts
Support.
In the amount of $39.
in the amount of $3,980. $3,980.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion on the motion?
Thank you, Ms. Dawn, for researching this for us. Just a reminder about the bid process in the future.
Well, right, I mean, yeah, we try to get 3.
Yeah.
All right, roll call?
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Bonkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Suchi?
Yes.
Trustee Nono?
Yes.
President Bison?
Yes.
See you guys on the pickleball. I'll watch you guys.
Yeah. Looks like
You guys really don't.
next week's Parks and Rec meeting, sounds like we have a new event to,
Yes.
we can put together for teaching the residents about play pickleball. All right. Number G, Ways and Means Contract Approval. So in your packet, there is, so in the packet you had the memo that I wrote, kind of just breaking down what took place. So we had 2 Ways and Means Committee meetings. One was in May, the second one was this past June 6th to review the contract for 3 department head supervisors. The accountant office manager position, DPW superintendent, and the fire chief. Previously, the accountant office manager and the DPW superintendent were in a union together, and the fire chief was separate. The fire chief chose to join into the union with the accountant, office manager, DPW superintendent. Frankly, it really just makes it all easier. They're all under one contract. It's all one shebang. We had the 2 meetings. We had some negotiations as far as salaries and what some of the benefits were. And based off of that, we came to a recommendation of moving forward with the contract. The contract was sent out separately to council on June 9th. And as requested from Trustee Piccoli during the Ways and Means Committee meeting, Ms. Hazel and our union rep put together a salary table so that you have an idea of what the total cost to the village actually is. Questions?
I have a bunch of them. I recall last year, I think it was last year, one of the former trustees had asked Mr. Addis, was it advisable that the fire chief be in a union? And I think Mr. Addis is, and I'm not trying to quote him, but it sounded like he sounded that the fire chief, because of their administrative responsibilities, should not be part of the same bargaining unit. Am I?
Is that a question?
I'm just asking for clarification.
Well, here's the problem. Traditionally, fire chiefs are management. Fire departments are quasi-military. That's recognized throughout the United States. It's a quasi-military operation. And the chief's in charge. And it creates potential conflicts when the chief and the people who work for him, or people who do work with him, are in the same bargaining unit. There are potential conflicts. Doesn't mean they can't be overcome. Doesn't mean maybe it can't work, but they're inherent. And I'll stick by that opinion. You're a quasi-military, when the fire breaks out, the chief's in charge and he makes an order. It's very much like a military operation. The same is true of the police department. The same is true of the sheriff's department. The same is true of the state police. So when you make this move, it's not just economics you're thinking about. Does it make life easier? You're right, it makes money and life easier. But I was asked for my answer, does it create potential conflicts? It can. Now, this is not a large community, and many conflicts can be avoided because we're not that large and people are running headlong into each other. But that is something that you must consider. Is that a legal opinion? No, that's an opinion based on what I've observed doing contracts for years for communities and counties and states and whatever. It's not a usual situation. I don't know much about the union setup here. Who else are members of this union?
This union is just the DPW superintendent and the accountant office manager and then the fire chief.
Okay.
It's a supervisory union.
Well, then his own people that answer to him are not part of it?
No.
Well, then I don't think that the chance for conflict is very large. It's still, it's always a concern because you're a quasi-military operation. But if those are the only 3, I don't know how they would conflict.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, now the minute I say that, they'll go and get in a conflict.
I think you call it question being asked there.
Yeah, they'll have a conflict in the parking lot on the way out, but off the top of my head, no.
But there's a couple of things that I do have a problem with. When I look at the fire chief's pay, and I'm looking at comparables, and I don't know where these comparables come from. Because the comparables I used were right next door to Lennox and the city of Richmond. Lennox fire chief makes $34,620 a year, plus $24.75 per hour per run after 3 p.m. Okay? The city of Richmond is $10,000 a year. They get paid $15 per run, no matter if that's a 1 hour run or a 10-hour run, $15, period. Okay? I'm still trying to find the need for a full-time chief. And I think the starting salary was $53,000, and now you're recommending a $20,000 bump.
So what we did is we looked at the comparables for, from the MML, based on population and weather, and
Budget.
and the budget. And we had anything from 60,000 to 85,000. We also based it off of the city of New Baltimore and Ray Township. They're both paid on call. Their fire chiefs are more in the $70,000, $75,000 range, but they're given a personal vehicle, which I said it's not something that we would be able to do. And then we also took into consideration the amount of overtime that our fire chief is having to work.
What's the overtime?
The overtime, when he put it all together, it was 300-something hours of overtime, if I remember correctly. Unfortunately, our fire chief isn't here tonight. Based off of having, working past the 40 hours.
And we took that approach with the fire chief and DPW because of the overtime that they work. So we did a bump in salary.
But I don't see the same kind of bump with DPW.
DPW's was a 7% bump.
That's the bump that everyone received.
Yeah, his major bump came, 2 contracts ago? When he got where we took the overtime into consideration, he got a substantial raise at that time.
No.
I think that was one of my
Never
first
happened.
contracts on council.
It never happened. And that's part of my point. We have 2 sets of rules. Okay, let me just say it like it. We have 2 sets of rules. The DPW supervisor and the office manager are getting primarily the same bump that everyone else got last year. And they're just not getting it. Well, they got the 7% whenever.
The office manager is getting more than 7%.
Okay, well, she should have because she's...
Right, and I'm not against it.
Because she hasn't had a raise since 2021. Okay? But we want to give the fire chief a $20,000 bump based on undocumented overtime. Okay? 40 hours is 40 hours. Okay? No one has, that's your job. Okay, that's your job. And do we know that the 40 hours is being put in?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they had to do timekeeping and all that.
There's a lot of gravy going in one direction, and there's a lot of heartache being directed to the other 2 department heads. They have to beg and borrow to get their normal bumps, their normal increases, which should have been done over a year ago.
I would like to think that the Ways and Means Committee, this go around, wasn't really making them beg and borrow.
Well, no, because it's long overdue.
Right.
Yeah.
It's long overdue.
So, really, when I came into this with the contract negotiation, it was with trying to, to your point, long overdue, it's trying to correct what hasn't been in place for a while, right? It's putting them where they're supposed to be, and I'd like to do the same for the future contract negotiations that we have, so.
So we choose communities that really aren't compared to the village of New Haven.
When the fire chief salary was previously set under the previous administration, they were using communities that weren't comparable. So that's why his was only like 50,000.
Which I still think is I still don't see a 20-member force needing a full-time chief. This is an on-call department. It's always been a volunteer on-call department. We had a part-time chief for a number of years that was sufficient. We've talked tonight about budgets and finances and all these kind of things. And these are the kind of things that will eventually get us in trouble. like 10 years ago, when the New Haven Police Department put themselves out of business by spending too much money, okay? And right now, you're looking to give one individual 25% of their budget.
I've got it at 37.38% of the current salary increase, so they get 37%.
We'll go up to 37%. One individual. You know, we're talking about trucks and equipment and, you know, all the things that that department needs to do the job and to do the job right, but you want to spend 37% of their budget just to pay the salary of one individual.
Just to clarify, it's not of the budget, that's 37% increase from current salary to proposed.
So
Just to
it's
clarify.
25% of the current budget will go to one individual just to pay that salary. That is fiscal irresponsibility. Okay? I put together a whole list of things here that, you know, you're talking about a 40% raise. Who gets a 40% raise?
Will 37% raise?
Got it, if the current salary is 53.5, bumping up to 73.5, it's 37.3.
37%. Who gets a 37% raise?
I'm going to back up what Brian said. We did request comparables that were equal in population and budget. We can't compare to Lennox.
We actually-
Why not?
Compare apples to apples. It's not apples to apples, the population.
Population is identical. The population in Lennox is almost identical.
I think we run into this every time when we talk, because especially under the previous administration, when we do comparables, it's almost as if we favor something, those comparables are gold. If we don't, they're not comparables, because you can always find a way.
Oh, sure.
With any community to say why you're not comparable. I mean, we do that every time. So the methodology we went behind with this one here is we went with comparable populations and comparable budgets,
Okay.
is what we did. The other consideration was getting everybody where they should be at. I mean, you could say that there was a 40% raise, but all three of the department heads now are almost on par with each other, whereas they weren't before.
They don't have to be. They have different responsibilities.
Right.
You know, I mean, the accountant is paid out of one budget. The DPW supervisor is paid out of 3 different funds because they generate money from different funds. Okay?
So their budgets are different. So
Their
I mean,
budgets are different.
Again, now you can make an argument for apples to apples on there. I mean, if she was only getting paid out of one budget, and you pick a budget that's small, now all of a sudden, even though she's worth the 70,000,
Sure.
we can't pay her that.
Right. You know, I mean, they have different job responsibility, different job description, different, their pay comes from different sources. You know, which, that's not and let me just carry on. And then on top of that, he becomes a full-time employee probably 1 year ago, but you give him 19 years of credit. He was a part-time employee for 18 years, but you give him 19 years of seniority based on longevity and vacation time.
That's what we did. That's how we've handled all the employees. We have an employee that was from the police department. That was all of her longevity was carried over from when she was on the police department.
But she was a full-time employee. She was full-time and full-time.
Sure.
Okay? I think I got an individual right here. Jimmy, you were a part-time employee for how many years?
Oh, a whole lot.
Okay? And when you became full-time, what did you receive?
Well, I just,
Vacation-wise?
oh, this started over. I got 0 and 0.
He started from scratch.
Well, and whose fault is that?
That's the way it's done. That's just the way it's done. You don't go from part-time to full-time, and then suddenly everything that you did back here becomes full-time credit.
I would argue that if he was an employee part-time, that he was an employee, so his longevity starts from when he.
I didn't appreciate the opportunity though.
He was a part-time employee.
That depends on where you're at, though, because the organization I left from, your part-time counted towards your
Yeah.
seniority.
So
But where I'm at now,
It may count towards seniority,
Yeah.
But, I mean, but if you're an on-call employee, an on-call fireman, and, I mean, and you may only work, I don't know, 10 hours a week, or, and then suddenly you become full-time, and everything you did back here is considered full-time?
You were an employee for all that time.
Chris, I think I get the point that Trustee Dilbert's making is that, like, for instance, if I'm a part-time employee for 10 years and I become full-time, I am now full-time with 1 year of seniority as a full-time team member.
Correct.
And my, let's say for instance, for example, a paid time off. Paid time off accruals may be assigned to you based on tenure with the company. They're not going to assign generally, and this could vary based on employer, but you're generally not going to assign 10 years worth of seniority to that now full-time team member and say, well, based on, 0 to 3 years, they get X amount, 3 to 5 years, they get X amount, 5 to 10 years, they get X amount. I'm not going to give Trustee Dilbert the 10-year value because he's only been a full-time. You're on the books as a full-time team member now for 1 year. I think that's the point you're trying to get across.
Absolutely.
I can add, the state does it too for schools. They're not allowed.
A one-year employee should start out with 1 year of benefits. Right.
And the county does it that way too.
Well, so by that rationale, then we have now considered that all of them, this is the first day of their employment because they're under a union contract day one.
Yeah.
Don't play games, please.
No, I mean, I'm just taking
No.
a point of view of looking at it that you can. It's arbitrary right now because now we're at a.
They've been full-time employees for
So now
however many
they
years they've
want-
been full-time employees.
These are bargaining unit employees day one.
The changing of non-bargaining to bargaining does not change their seniority.
Right.
Does not change their seniority.
It can't, yeah. it
That
can.
would not stand up in a court of law, I'll guarantee you.
You can. It's an arbitrary way of looking at it, and that's what we're doing right now. We're arbitrarily looking at, I look at years of service with the village as years of service with the village. For every employee, I'm not gonna pick on the fire chief. I mean, it's the way you can look at it.
That's how I would have done it. And that's how we were, when we were doing the contracts, is we were just looking at number of years.
That's what I was gonna ask. So, President Meissner, so you kind of went comparable with, you said, outlining communities of the fire chief, right? And so you kind of bumped up to that level,
Right.
right? Is that what you basically did?
Yep, that's what we did.
To
As
kind
we
of
did with
everybody else, yeah.
So I'm glad we came back to this. Talking about the comparables for surrounding communities, I think I'm less concerned with the comparables to surrounding communities. And if the number that Trustee Dilbert threw out of the salary equating to 25% of the total budget, that's a large number. I'd be more concerned with what these neighboring communities are allocating salary-wise compared to their budgets. Are they also allocating 25%? Because if we're talking about allocating 25% of the total budget to one person's salary, that seems incredibly high.
So,
Maybe, because maybe he was a little bit too low to begin with.
You
so
can't.
Ms. Kazel did come to us and say that one of the proposals she had was that, we would take into consideration when the fire chief is supporting Parks and Rec events or the parades and stuff like that, that a portion of his salary would come out of like Parks and Rec budget or some of the other budgets. So similar to how DPW Superintendent Dilbert is, his salary is coming out of multiple budgets. Ms. Kazel was proposing that we could do the same thing with fire chief. So it wouldn't only be coming out of the fire budget.
Because the Parks and Rec budget, which is only $20,000,
Yeah,
support
so
that.
already, so now
And
for
why
trips,
is he getting paid at all?
Maybe what is it?
Let's
go anywhere.
But it's gonna work in the same fashion with DPW. If they come and do a Parks and Rec event, it's gonna get charged.
They get paid. The employees get paid for supporting, like River Days this past week.
Right.
Okay?
No, they said I wasn't, the volunteers were.
Okay, so,
Volunteers were not.
I mean, I'm sorry, Chair Butcher wasn't gonna get paid this.
no, DPW.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know who they get paid by, which budget they get paid by, but it's not Parks and Rec. At least I don't think it is.
I think another thing, is that it's here that the fire department is based on those 3 mills, and not all municipalities function in that fashion. So
And
that
that's part of
leaves,
the apples to apples comparison you can make, because a city can set their fire budget whatever they want, we're constrained by what we can set it by. So you can't, to compare, say, okay, it's 5% of that budget, well, they can make the budget size whatever they want.
Some other municipalities.
Assuming the other municipalities are working with a higher millage rate than 3.
That's a possibility. Like Lennox, I'm not sure what Lennox deal is, but I know they don't, they typically don't set the max. And I think they're just 3, and they only levy something less than that, like 1.7 or 2.7, okay? But their fire millage is, I'm almost sure it's 3 mils, and I could be wrong. But I mean, if they feel that they need a bigger budget, then they need to come to council with a budget proposal and what kind of mills is it gonna take to support that, okay? Because right now, based on the current budget, which is already approximately 14,000 under budgeted, they're gonna need help from the general fund, and the general fund shouldn't be helping.
In other municipalities, the general fund is supplementing.
Look, I understand that. Chesterfield has a fire bill, and, you know, I understand the Baltimore, and, you know, look, and those are cities, and those are townships. This is a village, okay? And the funding is different, okay? But you know, we just gotta be, we're putting all our money in one location, and that's the problem I have. I mean, that's the problem that I have, you know?
Well, and I mean, respectfully, I mean, when we were doing the contracts and we were trying to come up with what, you know, we were looking at the MML comparables, we had the union representative giving us comparables. You know, we were really trying to do the comparison to bring everybody up to where we felt, you know, they should be paid based off of the comparisons that we had.
It's amazing that we seek out comparables that aren't next door. I mean, when we call out for mutual aid, who comes first?
We were using New Baltimore and Ray
Who
Township.
comes first? Lennox. Right next door. Okay? That should have been the comparable, the number one comparable.
We're still using pretty close. I mean, Ray Township and New Baltimore were just down the street, and they also do provide mutual aid sometimes.
Certain situations, they all do. Okay? But on a typical fire, like the one we had last Friday, it's a trailer park. Who was on scene first? I mean, second? Lennox.
Sure.
Matter of fact, Lennox even took over command because we had no officer on site.
I'm sorry, that's false. I don't know when I was supposed to talk, but that's false, and I can explain why I did that.
I can understand what was told to me.
You're completely wrong. Don't talk out of order.
No, I'm just repeating what was told to me.
Well, whoever told you was wrong.
We gotta, no, sorry.
So, you know, I mean, I stand by what I'm saying as far as financially, we're putting all of our eggs in one basket. We keep running elsewhere for comparables, when we can go right next door, we can go up to Richmond, we can go close by and get comparables.
yeah, but your comparables, Chris, I mean, just basic accounting, they have to be equal playing fields.
Okay, so
Richmond isn't an equal playing field.
what's so different about it?
So what is their population compared to ours? And what is their budget compared
It's
to
quite
ours?
similar.
For Chesterfield is across the street.
Yeah,
Can we do Chesterfield?
right.
Now you're talking 80 plus.
That's still a lot bigger than New
Well,
Hampshire.
that's not-
You know
That's
that.
right next door.
Look at the home, population-wise, Chesterfield is a whole lot, triple down bigger.
So, like I said, I mean, you know, when we were looking at our comparables, we were looking at ones that were both in close proximity, as far as paid on call, close proximity. We had Ray Township, we had New Baltimore, and then we were also looking at MML data, and we had population and budget. So, I mean, we did do the due diligence of doing the comparables. They might not be the comparables that you guys like, but we did do the comparables. This was just trying to be fair to everybody. This isn't trying to favor anybody. This is exactly the same approach that I plan to take with, when we go to do clerical staff and everybody else, is looking at comparable, what is the MML comparable data look like?
People be asking for that meal back.
And that is what I mentioned earlier, because at the fire committee level, we've talked about, we're gonna get to a situation that the services that we're providing, the budget's not gonna support it.
Well, then they need to put together a budget and let's go for a millage increase then.
Hey, good luck.
So, yes, and that's what they would like to do. So, do we want to ask our voters for more money? Will we just lower it? It's, is it shelving?
They gotta sell it.
So the topic at hand is the Ways and Means contract.
And how do you want to handle this?
The request is for or the motion that we're requesting is for the approval of the contract. Ways and Means Committee had already done the negotiations and the due diligence, and we were recommending the approval of the contract.
Are you that?
Yes.
So you're looking for a motion?
I mean, yeah, we can have a motion and then we can have further discussion. Really should have had the motion first.
That's okay.
So you're
It was
looking
an
to...
introduction.
We will definitely have more discussion on the motion. But if somebody would like to make a motion or we don't motion, then
Okay, so I will make a motion to present the contract as presented, as recommended by the Ways and Means Committee. Do you want all the detail on the cover sheet?
how much detail do we need for a contract approval?
I would have put the supervisor in there.
Paying 3 people under this?
Yes.
Need the salaries of all 3 at least.
Okay.
That's a basic.
Yep.
So are we doing this as one?
Yeah.
It's all three individuals are all under the same contract now.
Yeah, it's the supervisor's unit contract. It'd be just like if we did the office or DPW. Is there a second?
And then you give some idea of that.
I'll second.
Your salary, you're not gonna get every nickel and dime in the motion. But people need to know what kind of amount of money they're paying.
I mean, I personally think that these ought to be dealt with individually.
It's a union contract.
I know.
Unfortunately.
And it shouldn't be a contract like that.
One of the things, if I guess while we're not having a motion yet, one of the things that we did make sure that was included in this contract was for the wages for the 3 years. For the wage increase, we did 3% to 5%, depending on the 6-month average CPI, so rate of inflation. And we actually put the figures in of what that amount would be, so that it's not a TBD. One of the things that we really didn't like is that in past years, our contracts, they would say wage reopener or TBE. And so it was like every single year, and actually kind of how we got to this point this year, is that it was a wage reopener and then, renegotiation and all that. This is saying, okay, this is what the amount is. We do have a little bit of a range as far as the 3% to 5% based off of the rate of inflation. But otherwise, it's, we actually are going into this knowing what the salary ranges are. Trustee Donkowski, you're,
So, yeah. So Mr. Gaddis recommended that we use this contract total amount, which is of all the years of the contract.
okay.
Does that work?
Sure.
So I make a motion to accept the collective bargaining agreement between the Village of New Haven and Teamsters Local 214 Supervisors Unit, which covers Ms. Sandra Kazel, Mr. Marcus Dilbert, Mr. Daniel Steer, and the contract total in its entirety is approximately $959,832.
We have a motion, do we have a support?
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Discussion on the motion. Trustee Gilbert.
There was also a item that I saw, and I'm trying to see if it's actually in the contract, where they get paid to attend council meetings.
Correct, yeah.
My God, where does this pot of gold coming from?
Well, the supervisors all made the case that, everybody else is paid to attend these meetings.
Ooh, besides
Us.
us.
So we're asking our 3 supervisors to be at every single council meeting.
We're requiring their attendance.
Requiring their attendance. Go ahead.
So based on this proposed CBA, we're talking about only approving all 3 of the department heads collectively at the same time, correct? But varying the values in which each of those department heads would be receiving a pay increase in terms of percentages. So all of the different department heads are receiving different percentage increases.
For the first year, correct.
I guess I'm curious why then they are being voted on in the same agreement when they are not moving unilaterally amongst the 3 of them. I feel as though they should probably be voted on separately based on the fact that their increases are differing amongst the 3 different department heads. Because you're essentially like if somebody does not like a 37.38% increase for the fire chief, but stands behind the increase of, I'm arbitrarily calling, let's say 17 and 22% for the other 2 department heads, I'm then forced to stand my ground and say no to the increase for 2 people that I think should get it and 1 person that I don't. And I'm not trying to single out the fire chief salary, I'm just, for the sake of examples. It feels weird that I'm making a decision on 3 different salaries that are fluctuating in completely different percentages.
You're going to run into this with every union contract you've ever run into, because these are. So I think we're not voting on a contract for Sandra Kazel. We're voting on the office manager's pay. We're not voting on Daniel Steer. We're voting on the fire chief's salary. It's like a classification that we're voting on.
Sure.
And they're getting paid raises based on those contracts. I've been in a contract where we have 30 classifications, and not everybody got the same pay raise in those classifications. It goes by market rate and all these other things, all these other factors.
Okay.
So, for example, like one of the market rates we found on one, we were substantially underpaying, right? So that one got bumped up to where they were. We're neglecting to mention the other 2 classes are getting substantial raises too, because the market rates for those classes we were underpaying. So they got substantial raises in there. To do them individually, then that's no longer a union contract.
Sure.
Right? So, now we're voting on they voted to organize, we didn't challenge it, so now we have a union contract in front of us, a supervisor unit for the Teamsters that we're now voting on. If the office manager or the office clerical contract came in front, I can't sit there and say, well, I like all of it except for the raised portion that we gave Becky. I can't do that, right?
But I fully understand what he's saying though, is because the first year, there is a lot of difference. And after the first year, then
everybody's equal.
Then everybody's equal. Mm-hmm. But the first year.
I've been in ones where it was absolutely not that way.
Trust me, I'm still involved in UAW.
Yeah.
But, and I'm going through this contract, and I'm constantly coming across things that just seem like we're not requiring the same requirements. For instance, The DPW superintendent has to have a bachelor's degree. The account office manager has to have a bachelor's degree. The fire chief has to have a high school diploma.
Associate degree in fire services or equivalent job experience.
Exactly.
It's a different, but it's a different job altogether that has a different
I
requirement.
understand all of that.
And all of that verbiage is in their existing contracts
Single
as
somebody
well.
out.
I understand all of that. Okay, but it still doesn't prevent us from requiring some, some advanced education,
But along with that advanced education is gonna come a higher salary requirement.
Well, then maybe we can justify it then.
Well, probably higher than the salary that's quoted here.
Then maybe we can justify it then.
I think the only alternative is, it's unfortunate for the group, but they would have to pull away from this, what is our alternative? Mr. Harris, they would have to pull away from this contract?
Well, you have apparently negotiated a contract, or at least a preliminary contract with the union, okay? You obviously have people that disagree with some portions of it. I don't know, is this the first time this contract has been presented to this board?
It has, unfortunately.
That, my legal opinion is you either vote a contract up or down, or if you have major differences, you can always, and this is called kick the can down the road, but maybe have someone, if a certain member of this board has real problems with it and questions the comparables, perhaps 30 days to present other comparables isn't unfair. And if they can do it, they can do it. Those who want to say these comparables are indeed comparables, we all know the comparables game, okay? Then they can do that. Now, this is by way of suggestion, not legality. It's not my duty to tell you guys how to negotiate contracts. I wasn't part of the negotiation, and thank God. And I don't want to be, but in some communities I am. And so that puts me in a little better position to give a legal opinion. You can either go ahead and vote on it, or if you want to say, look, it's been a while in the making. There seem to be at least two, if I judge the crowd right, that are upset by what appears to be a large percentage raise to at least one of the members. And they want to attack the comparables or others, he's not so upset, Mr. Succi, with the comparables, that maybe they be given till the next meeting or a period of time to present their own analysis. And then the board can make maybe a more reasonable and publicly acceptable vote. That's just a practical suggestion. But it would be, it's legal. You can always, based on discussion after a motion, to realize that there are bigger differences than we may have thought, to table a motion and give it a little further consideration. I would suggest not long, because then it never gets done.
Right.
I mean, you've got to put an end on it. Like, we're going to vote on this on such and such a day, and people will be allowed to present their positions at the next meeting.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only question I have is Trustee Dilber, the numbers that you presented for the other communities and how much they're paid. You're given figures about how much money they're paid per run and all that. Do we know what that actually then amounts to at the end of the year, of what their total salary then ends up being?
I know at Lennox, the total, his chief salary and his run came up to $46,000. 46 and some change.
Where is this TA at? Has the bargaining unit voted on it already or no?
No.
So this will be the first vote on this TA by either side.
Right.
So theoretically, even if we vote on it tonight and ratify it on our end, it could still not be ratified on theirs. So we're still, this is the very first step in the ratification process.
So our two options are,
At this point, I'm gonna rescind my motion. Was it supported? Yes, it was supported. And why don't we give all parties time to to do their homework.
I think that's fair based off of the fact that we have, you know, considerable contracts here that's before us. And we have some discussion at that place. One of my regrets is that I didn't include the comparables with the packet. I wish I would have done that. So.
That would have helped.
Yeah. So I guess we motion to table for 1 month.
So, you're rescinding?
Do what though? I mean, because, so I'm trying to think about the bargaining process right now, right? So if we vote on it, if we don't vote on it, there's actually no movement at all for another month. If we vote on it tonight and we vote it down, then our direction would be go back to the bargaining table. So, I mean, I think, or we vote it and to approve it tonight, and then it gets ratified and we move forward. Either way, I don't know what tabling it would do in the process. I mean,
I would agree.
Unless we didn't get this packet in enough time to digest, which you can make an argument for, then we could table it to look at it even deeper. But just to do it just because we're apprehensive about it, I don't know what stalling would do, right?
So
I
I
would
was
agree.
rescinding my motion though, because we've been immersed in it for weeks, right?
I have a different
And
perspective
I
than
did-
someone that doesn't, right?
And I was not comfortable, I'll be honest with you, that they were not gonna get a copy of it until Friday.
And I would,
And-
and that would be the reason why I'm saying,
And
okay,
that is the
digest
only
it.
reason why I'm rescinding my motion, to give the rest of the members time to read it, digest it, do their research as well, as that we did.
Is that what you guys are saying?
That's why I'm asking to rescind my
Okay.
motion and motion to table it for a month. Does that, what are your thoughts, Chris?
No, my thoughts were, Mr. Foley,
To vote?
let's go up or down with it
Okay.
tonight, because 30 days, negotiations are over, so it's just gonna sit here for 30 days.
Well, you want to make a motion?
No, I'm not gonna make a motion. So we're both on the table already.
The motion will be rescinded.
Okay, so I will
Remake your motion.
remake my motion. What's the title of this?
Do you want me to read what your motion was?
Sure.
Your motion was to accept the collective bargaining agreement between the Village of New Haven and Teamsters Local Unit 214 Supervisors Unit with Ms. Hazel, Mr. Dilbert, and Mr. Steyer totaling $959,832.
Approximately.
Approximately. Yes, I have
And I
it.
wonder, do we want it to be by name or do we want it to be by title? I don't know if it makes a difference, but.
Well, you're voting for a title. The job is, that's what the job pays.
Yes, it is titled because it doesn't have their name on it.
Office manager, DPW superintendent, fire chief.
Yes.
Just to be clear.
Title.
Title. You'll change that, Richard?
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, so we have an amended motion on the table.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any last minute discussion or are we ready for roll call? Roll call.
Trustee Bankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Dilbert?
No.
Trustee Nona?
No.
Trustee Pacoli?
Yes.
Trustee Suchi?
No.
And President Meisen.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Next up, under new business, is fire department seasonal help. So this one, I sent out the memo on, or was with the packet. Let me just open up my memo here just to refresh. So the fire department is under a unique opportunity where they had a recent graduate of the EMT Academy who was interested in working for the fire department. They are going to college in the after this summer, so they'll be going into college in August. So it was a unique opportunity that they could work for the fire department as a seasonal worker, similar to what we do with the DPW. They don't live within the normal radius of the village to be eligible for paid on call. So if we put them as a seasonal worker, that would allow them to be working the 40 hours full time here on site at the fire department, which helps with staffing. You know, summer months, you have individuals that are going on vacation and making, making the scheduling a little bit more difficult. The fire department was asking for a $15 an hour seasonal worker, 40 hours per week through the summer ending in August. Because they're a seasonal worker, even though they are working full-time hours, we don't have to pay them benefits. So the estimated cost would be roughly $8,500 for the seasonal worker. And I say roughly because when I put the memo together, I wasn't quite sure when that actual end date was. So I was doing the math based off of the entire month of August. Asking council's approval for the fire department to have a seasonal summer worker at $15 an hour through August. Some of the things that the employee would be, or that the seasonal worker would be doing is painting the fire hydrants that normally the DPW seasonal staff would take care of. This would free up the DPW's seasonal staff to do the...
I don't think you had this conversation.
No, they're not paying any hydrants. I have you paying hydrants.
Oh, my bad, okay. I thought that's what we had talked about. I'm wrong. So he has work, in addition to what I thought was that, he also has work that the seasonal worker would be able to do around the firehouse. And then will also be available as paid on, available to make the runs and whatnot.
But not as paid on call.
Not as paid on call. They'd be actually working on site here. So, instead of having paid on call, where somebody's at home and they're coming into the village fire department and then responding, this person already here at the municipal hall or at the fire department would be immediately leaving from the fire department to the scene. So helps with response time, helps with alleviating schedules, so on and so forth. I don't know if Assistant Chief or Lieutenant wanted to.
I'm sorry, what's that?
For the seasonal worker, I don't know if you guys had anything that you wanted to add to that.
No, you mentioned the fire hydrants and stuff, right?
Well, but it's my understanding it's the DPW staff that are going to be doing that.
Oh, okay. Well, that was one of the things we're going to. There's a lot of like our host program where we visit shut-ins and stuff like that. We're using because she has an EMT license, she has all the fire certifications. She costs us nothing, and she has all the certifications to be a full-time fireman. So that was one of the things we're going to have to do. But I'm sorry, I didn't know what he said. There's a lot of things that go on every day that we need to do, but sometimes we don't have the time or the equipment to do it, and we're gonna use her. We're gonna abuse her, basically. No, we're gonna use her to fill in these holes to make it better for the public. Like I said, there's some of the programs that we have that people have been doing all by themselves. We'll have 2 people going, which is a better idea. If I go into your house to help you, all by myself, with good intentions, and then you decide to file a complaint that I stole something, I'm guilty whether I'm guilty or not. So that's one of the things we're going to use her for, is a witness, I guess. But we've got a lot of small things, but I don't have it with me. Daniel unfortunately had to go away for a family emergency, and he asked me to step in, but I don't really have all that stuff in there. If you want it, I can go get it, but at this point, like you said, there's, can you think of anything else we were going to do with her? The summer help that we're...
I think that's good. I think that's good, unless anybody has any questions.
The original purpose was she was going to split time between the 2 departments. Right. And so that's what the contract was written as, that's what she was hired as, and then the DPW decided they didn't want to use her anymore. We already had a contract with the 2 together. So she'll be doing regular fire, EMT, the same job everybody else does, except she's just going to be there during the day.
So the ask is for council approval for the fire department to have a seasonal summer worker at the rate of $15 an hour, roughly $8,500 is what it would cost. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the summer worker with the fire department at the rate of $15 an hour seasonally until the end of August in the amount of about $8,500.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Roll call.
Trustee Succi?
Yes.
Trustee Noda?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
President Bison?
Yes. All right, next we have item I, Purple Heart Trail Resolution Proclamation. We had Susan came up here and talked to us at the call from the floor on agenda items. So we have a 2023 proclamation proclaiming the village of New Haven a Purple Heart City. So if I may, I'd like to read the proclamation. Whereas the people in the village of New Haven have great admiration and the utmost of gratitude for all the citizens of our community who have selflessly served their community and this community in the armed forces. And whereas veterans have paid the high price of freedom by leaving their families and communities and placing themselves in harm's way for the good of all. And whereas the contributions and sacrifices of the men and women from the village of New Haven who served in the armed forces have been vital in maintaining the freedom and way of life enjoyed by our citizens. And whereas many men and women in uniform have given their lives while serving in the armed forces. And whereas the Purple Heart is the oldest military decoration in present use and was initially created as the badge of military merit by General George Washington in 1782. And whereas the Purple Heart was the first American Service Award or decoration made available to the common soldier and is specifically awarded to members of the United States Armed Forces who have been wounded or paid the ultimate sacrifice in combat with a declared enemy of the United States of America. And whereas the village of New Haven appreciates the sacrifices of our Purple Heart recipients made in defending our freedoms and believe it is important that we acknowledge them for their courage and show them the honor and support they have earned. Whereas August 7th each year is Purple Heart Day, now therefore we, the council of the village of New Haven, Michigan, do hereby proclaim the village of New Haven as a Purple Heart Village and encourage the citizens of the village of New Haven to show their appreciation for the sacrifices of the Purple Heart recipients have made in defending our freedoms, to acknowledge their courage and show them the honor and support they have so selflessly earned.
I'll move that we adopt a proclamation proclaiming the village of New Haven, Michigan a Purple Heart City.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Can I just make a comment real fast? I just want to thank Ms. Susan Howard for sharing the story that she shared with us. I thought that was beautiful. Thank you for taking the time out of your night to share that with us. And also, kudos, was this your granddaughter you said?
Yes.
I apologize, I didn't get your name. It takes a lot of courage to stand up in front of a public space, in front of a lot of strangers, and speak in front of everybody, especially at such a young age. So kudos to you, and thank you both for sharing the story that you shared with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Don't start crying, or else you're going to make me choke up.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have item J, tobacco vaping ordinance. So in your council packet, there was an email from Lieutenant McPherson that we received, basically letting us know that, with the school resource officers that are in, some of the schools now, they are seeing a heightened use of vape pens and vaping products. Right now, when they go to write a ticket for minors in use or possession of vaping products, they have to write the citation to the state law. So the request was that if we were to adopt an ordinance to cover vaping and minors in use / possession of vaping products, basically they'd be able to write it to our local ordinance, and then any fines or anything that is associated with it would also then go to the village instead of the state. Right now, since they're writing it to the state law, any benefit that the village could see is all going to the state.
So tonight, the motion will be to post it, since we now post them for.
Correct, yeah. So tonight's motion would be just to post it for 30 days for review, and then we would pass, or review for, we would vote on it at the next meeting.
So what would the ordinance number be?
400.
400. It's a nice even number.
I did.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. So the ordinance was also emailed out separately from the packet by Mr. Addis's office. So you should all have that. That was also as part of, I think it was the June 9th email, if I remember correctly, the date. Any questions on the ordinance?
Is there any nuance to this specific to New Haven, or is it pretty much all state law?
There is no, if you're asking a legal question, there's nothing specific to New Haven. I worked off some other models and took out a lot of language of the 10-year-old and 5-year-old models that put way too much history in there and just made it, but it is in accord with state law, but gives you local authority.
I'll move to post ordinance 400 for minor possession of tobacco and vapor products ordinance.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? One thing I'll point out, I'm meeting with Lieutenant McPherson to go over our this new dashboard that they're putting together. It's rather interesting that for year-to-date, when you look at narcotics citations that have been issued are all on school property, or a pretty high amount of them are on school property. We'll just leave it at that. All right, it's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Next, we have CDBG 2024-2026 resolution. This was a resolution that CDBG reached out to us and asked that we pass tonight. Has to do with funding for 2024, 2025, 2026 with the CDBG. Whether we wanted to apply for any funding. I know that there's some constraints on it as far as low income margins and all that, but they are asking for us to adopt this resolution so that we can continue applying for CDBG funding. Do you have so the last resolution was 7. Is this resolution 8?
8, yes.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Just as a FYI, in the past, we received approximately $500,000 in funds for sidewalk replacement from this program. So
yeah,
it's a program that we have utilized in the past.
Feels like another no-brainer.
Well, I believe, if I remember correctly, we were able to do that because of the low income. So now that we don't qualify, I'm not sure how much we'll be able to use, but
I'm sure there's some other programs.
Yeah.
Housing rehabs and stuff like that that are
Yeah.
part of the program.
Still definitely beneficial for us to pass this. Okay. It's been moved and supported. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Housing Commission appointments. Clerk, what's up?
We received a request from 2 current sitting housing commissioners asking to be reappointed to their seats.
Yeah, so we have Mr. Don Daniels and Laura Folson. Both of them have been on the board since 2017 and are asking for reappointment. And I believe, Ms. Gazel, I think you were also going through and you were trying to make sense of who was on
That's correct. Those two are, they're up this year. We still have to look at the other ones and make sure that they are. We might still have another one that still needs to be reviewed also.
So we have two before you in the packet. Motion in order.
I'll make a motion that we read one or both at the same time.
You can go both at the same time. They've already been appointed once, so just reappoint.
I'll make a motion that we reappoint Mr. John Daniels and Ms. Lauren Folsom to their positions on the Housing Commission.
Second.
Moved and supported. Any discussion?
Was there any other interest, or,
Yeah.
I mean, is this something that we post, or is it just that they know that they're up and?
We didn't make a post because the seat wasn't really vacated, but they just reached out and said and expressed the interest to continue serving.
Historically, in the past, we've only posted when there was actual vacancy and the person moved or, but we could in the future post when the terms are up. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's universal for pretty much all of our committees, that we really only seem to post when it's term, or when it's vacant.
Vacant. Yeah.
I was just kind of in my head thinking for more community involvement, if I'm more likely to run for something if I know that it's available.
Yeah. Yeah, the Housing Commission, and I know, we have a couple of you that have been on council for a while. I know, at least from my perspective, since being on council since 2017, the Housing Commission has been something that's been really autonomous.
They are.
Yeah, it's not something that we don't really have to do any involvement. Everything just happens.
The only involvement that the village has is we appoint to their board, it's a 5-member board, and we pay their stipend. That's it. That's it. And they meet the last Monday of the month at 4:30.
All right, I think we had motion and support.
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. DPW Supervisor Dilbert, cemetery policy and price adjustments.
Good evening. Just coming to you today to let you know that I'm gonna plan a meeting with the cemetery committee, which we have 3 board members, and then we're gonna go over policies, price adjustments, because we need to update our policies and prices, and then I'll report back to you guys next month.
Yeah, it's just as up.
That's it.
All righty. Thanks, sir.
Got trees.
Yeah, you're up next. DPW Supervisor Dilbert for miscellaneous large tree removal.
All right. Went out for bids, got 3 bids, tried to get 5. Got some bids for some trees to be removed. 3 at Haven Ridge Park that are where the splash pad is proposed to be at. Cemetery, they have 2 pine trees and stumps. The Haven Ridge Park, the stumps will be removed also. Cemetery has 2 pine trees, one of them broke off, so it's broken in half. So we need to remove the rest of it. There's also one on 2nd Street, right on the corner, it's right in the corner of the cemetery actually. It wraps around a tree, it's an old tree, part of it's broken off, so that one needs to come down. There's one on Carl Street. That one fell last fall. We had to remove that from the road, so we're just getting that one, taking the rest down. And there's a giant one by the Lions Club that is big, so we're gonna remove that one, hopefully. And I got 3 bids. CC Trees, General Tree Service, and the Tree Guys. Tree Guys out of Armada being the lowest. They've done work in Armada, for the village of Armada, so they're reputable, and they were considerably low.
And I assume their license is insured.
Yes, yep.
Any other questions?
Do you want to do the park right now? I mean, do we have things set in stone?
Yeah, I know, when you mentioned about the park, that kind of crossed my mind as well. Do you think that they would honor this if we asked them to forego the park?
I could ask. Yeah, I can ask. Let me see, okay, so.
That'd be the 3 trees at $800 each.
Oh, yeah, that's.
Which, considering how big those trees are, $800 seems cheap.
Yeah, that's cheap. I was looking at that, I was like, we might want to. Also, in saying that, we do have clusters of trees in the park. Not saying they look bad or whatever, but they're gonna kill off each other, so we might, and some of these trees are actually in that cluster.
So we may want to take out one, just to give the other two.
Yeah, that's a possibility also.
Okay. I mean, I'm not a tree hugger, but I do like a nice trees.
I mean, yeah, cutting down a bunch of trees in the park seems kind of.
Well, there's more trees. Like after when you get rid of these 3, you still have like 5 more that are just towering over it. Like you're not gonna miss them. I wouldn't.
I noticed on the bid from the tree guys that there's some verbiage listed that states, the stump on 2nd Street, 59087.
Yep.
They made a note on here that said may not be able to grind stump.
Yes.
And then on 34090 will grind up to the sidewalk as close as we can get.
Yes.
Was there any concern about any concern about the ability to complete the same work that the other 2 bids would be able to complete?
Like,
I understand they're different companies, so they might speak differently about
I
that.
talked to the TC Trees and actually the general about the one on 2nd Street because what it is that there's a fence that has since grown into the tree.
Okay.
So and this tree, or this fence is shared by the cemetery and 2 homeowners. So you take that stump out, are we gonna put up a fence for a home? You see, it's a sticky situation. No, I'm just gonna leave a stump up as a fence post.
Yeah, and I do see on the other 2 quotes, they do say, no stump cut to fence level.
Yes. Because if not, then that fence is just gonna fall, because there's no post there. That tree acted as the post for however many years.
So all three of the quotes, we're really talking about getting the same exact
Yes, sir.
work done. Okay,
Yes, sir.
that was my only concern. I just saw the verbiage written in there and 10 grand, 13 grand, a lot of money for the trees.
And the Carl Street one, that one's like right against the sidewalk. So he just wants to be, like when I talk to him, he wants to be safe because if he hits like his tree stump grinder, if he hits that sidewalk, that machine alone. So he's like, I'll get as close as I can. So that's just being safe for him.
All right, fair.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's going to be replacing our sidewalk.
That and the machine. Yeah, it's way more than that sidewalk. Yeah, so that was his concern, and I understood it, what he was talking about. So.
Any other questions?
Also appreciate that they're a disabled veteran company, which they made note of at the top.
Motion in order?
I'll move to accept the bid for the tree work being completed by the tree guys in the amount of $10,200.
Support.
Been moved and supported. Any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, roll call. Roll call.
Yeah.
Yep.
Trustee Succhi?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Purgoli?
Yes.
Trustee Nono?
Yes.
President Mason?
Yes. Thanks, sir. All right, last 3. Item O, Principal Insurance Office Manager, Ms. Kazel.
After reviewing our life insurance and ABAD insurance, we found that it hadn't been updated in like 12 years. The other policy was for life insurance for $50,000, and the ADD portion was only up to maximum of $500. With our lowest paid employee on our rate scale, they would make more for the 66.67 more than the $500. So we had to look at that and bring that up. So with the look at the contract that we were looking at today, I'm proposing that we bring up that, that top to $1,500 instead of $500 and $100,000 life insurance policy. It would only cost us like $1,200 extra from what our policy is today. So I am asking for an increase in our principal insurance for a $100,000 life insurance policy with a cap of $1,500 for a workers' comp or 66.67% of their salary. So if somebody's making $20,000 and they get $800, 60 cents, they'll get $600. I don't know what the math is, now I forgot. So basically what, we're trying to make it comparable to what everybody's I can't remember right now.
Were those figures that you just mentioned, were they weekly, or were they weekly? I assume they were weekly.
$1,200 a year increase.
The $500.
The $500 would be
$1,500.
thank
That would
you.
be
Thank you for helping me, yes,
No
$500, up to $1,500,
Bumping it up to $1,500.
yes, cap.
So the annual estimated cost for the AD&D, the 1925-88, and then the short-term disability, the 4679.52, is that total for the year? That would cost the village?
Right now, it's costing us $46.79, and then you know, they're bump up $200, so it'll be $6,000.
No. And so right now it's capped at $500, correct? And they would, the employee would receive 66% of their salary not to exceed $500.
Correct.
We're saying that currently the way that it's written, generally going to be getting $500 because it's capped, which is considerably less than 66%.
Correct. Thank you. Explaining that.
Making sure I understood.
You got it.
So, I'm confused, you just answered, Rachel. So.
The short-term disability in here, the total premium annual estimated cost is $4679.52. You said that's what we're currently paying.
Correct.
That's as of January 1st.
So
That's
this is-
January 1st. That's our policy right now.
Okay, so where's the new policy written?
The new policy is not written. I thought I had the estimation in here.
This, are we sure, this seems to be the 4,679.52 total seems to include a short-term disability cap of $1,500.
That's what I'm saying.
So I'm wondering if this is the proposed policy,
This is the proposed policy that I did.
not the current policy, or is it effective already?
Hold on.
It says effective January 1, 2022.
We're helping you out there.
Yeah, what's included in the packet as weekly benefit of maximum $1,500.
The 467852 is our current packet. On the short term, on page 6, it says that the maximum is $1,500 and the 66.67 is that. So yeah, you're right, it's only $600.
So it's still
But still,
there's still the price increase, it's just that.
it's only $300. But I think what I was trying to figure out was with the contracts that we were going to agree on, was going to break it out at $1,200. That might be what was going on.
So, this is what we currently pay?
No, we pay $43.77. This is, it would go up to $46.79.52 a year.
Okay, so we currently pay what, $43.77 you said?
Mm-hmm. So it would increase it at the current rate of all the salaries right now would be only $300.
Maybe that's the key word though, is that at the rate of the salaries right now, with the contract that we just approved,
Correct.
that's where you were saying that it was
The
going to increase
$1,200.
it to $1,200. So this right now is just reflective of the current salaries.
Yes, thank you.
Is there a rush of us doing it this month?
No.
How how about we bring this back next month?
That's fine. I have better, I'll have better numbers.
We had a lot that we crammed into this month's meeting,
Yes.
admittedly. Let's bring this one back next month,
That's
and then, that can also then be reflective of what the contract that we just passed.
Sounds good.
Sound like fun. I'm not with that. What's next?
You are still next up for the next one, MML Workers' Comp Renewal, July 1 to June 30, 2024.
Last year we paid $11,084. This year, the current rate with the increase of the salaries was 7% of the DPW workers and clerical. Our premium went to $13,322. We will be getting on top of that. Our policy is basically $23,000, but we will be getting dividend credit. We got a dividend credit of $8,647. I'm asking to approve the invoice to pay for $13,322.
What was the amount of the contract last year? The fund last year?
11,084.
11,084.
Yes. Less the dividend check. The dividend check was, the total was $22,463. The dividend check was $11,529, brought it down to $11,084. This year, it's $23,716. The dividend check is $8,647, and our premium due is $13,322. Of course, that's based on the audit. When we get audited, it might go up or go down, depending on the salaries of this
Yes,
year.
you can see the numbers on page 4. Any questions? Motion?
Make a motion that we approve the renewal in the amount of $13,322 to MML.
Second.
It's been moved and supported. Any further questions on the motion, discussion on the motion?
Is this the only place that we can get workers' comp through, or is it because with our membership through MML we get discounts?
I'm sorry? We did get a discount.
We get a discount for being members of the MNL. That's what that dividend check is for.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli?
Yes.
Trustee Nona?
Yes.
Trustee Witkowski?
Yes.
Trustee Suchi?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero?
Yes.
And President Mason?
Yes. And Ms. Hazel, omitted assessment roll.
We have to pass a resolution for the special assessment number 1 relating to drain bond series 2020B for the 2023 issue for the Oakland Cone Interceptor Drainage District. This is our portion of this, of the $15,600,000 bond is $83,000.
Well, the resolution is only if we're gonna pay it all up front.
Oh, is it? So we have to do that?
That's the way I read it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the resolution is if we want to pay it all up front. If we don't, then no further action is required. So really it's...
So no further action is required because we passed, the deadline was already, and then we did not get the information until like May 15th, and it was past our board thing. But I would have recommended us not paying off it because of the fact that we just got out of sewer deficit elimination last year. Our portion of this bond is $83,992 of the $15,600,000. I guess I'm just telling everybody we don't have to do the resolution then, basically.
That was the way I read the packet.
Okay.
That the resolution was only if you intend to pay it front.
This is just a discussion that we have to pay $83,000, and we have another bond.
What was the savings though if we would have prepaid it?
The total amount was
$83,992. And I think it's $6,000.
Am I getting $125,000 in interest?
Something like that.
No, I think the total payments are $125.
Total payments are $125,000. But we gotta realize too that, this project is a $120 million project, and this is only like the third, installment coming in. Third, special assessment for that project, where it's all about reconstruction. We are in a, we have 17 communities that are on this line that we have to pay for all of our maintenance and take care of this line all the way down to Detroit.
But if we, with payments, it's gonna cost $125,000? Is that what I'm reading?
Yes, over 20 years.
Yeah.
Or we could have prepaid $85,000, okay.
So we just got out of the deficit. What is our cash balance right now? It's not in that sewer fund, right?
It's like $400,000. It's $400,000 right now. We pay it over $750,000 a year.
I mean, so I know we are past the deadline, it says for the, if we intend to prepay. But the prepayments, we have until June 27th if we would have submitted. I mean,
Does it June 27th?
June 27th, yeah, so, I mean, if it is the pleasure of council, maybe we could
Ask for an extension?
try to prepay. I mean, if we gave them if we gave them the check for $83,000.
7% back.
Right, I would think, but unless they've already are in the motion of doing the bonds, but I can't imagine.
We can try.
If it's the pleasure of council.
And you recommended not paying?
I recommend not paying because we don't know what the cost of all the other ones coming to. But I mean, as Tracy points out, 125 versus 83, that's a lot of money, but it's over 20 years too. So.
Because our issue right now is a cash issue, right?
It's a cash issue there right now. Yeah.
It's a $41,806 difference.
It's almost 50%.
Right.
A cash issue, just cash flow?
Cash flow issue, yeah, it's a cash flow issue right now.
To date, you mean? You mean cash flow to date?
Today.
Right, but you're gonna collect, you have 6 months to collect, so. Because those are the, projections that we
all we have to
should
do is deny it, or we can do it.
So if we make this motion, we need to make a motion to cut this check also, not just to send a request, because by the time that we meet again, the deadline will have passed.
The motion would be to pass the resolution, and
Got
then she would send the resolution, and then we have until, what was that, June 26th to send the payment.
So we have to do that one right there, yeah.
Yeah, there's the resolution that starts on page 8 of the PDF.
And this will be resolution 2023-008 or 9?
9.
We're getting a lot done.
You are on it.
I'll make a motion to adopt Village of New Haven Resolution 2023-009 to make this payment in the amount of $83,992 pursuant to the special assessment number 1 relating to drain bond series 2023.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion on the motion?
I hope they accept our money.
Nobody's really confident. Thank you.
Roll call.
Trustee Fitchie?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Pankowski?
Yes.
Trustee Dilbert?
Yes.
Trustee Guerrero? Yes. Trustee Noah?
Yes.
Trustee Capoli? Yes. President Mysel?
Yes. Call from the floor, limited to 3 minutes for discussion.
No, and just speaking of sidewalks, I ride my cart around town a lot, but there's a lot of sidewalks that, like where the handicap, we see the red A lot of them are popping up. That's what very much in the attention.
Call from the floor?
Good evening. Is there any questions that need to be directed towards me?
So from call from the floor, it's really just one-sided. So it's, if there's anything that you want to
May I
discuss.
request a closed session?
No, we're being advised of it again.
Okay, thank you.
Any other call from the floor?
I have something. I only have 3 minutes, so I can't cover all the stuff I want to cover, but, and I don't mean this to be an attack on anybody, but I have some issues with what Mr. Dilworth had to say. I was fire chief for 5 years. He was the president, and we got along fine. And he, you know, him and I got along fine. He did try to contract us out to Chesterfield once because
Did not.
Yeah, well, okay.
I never negotiated. You and Dan negotiated.
Okay.
So you're not understanding or not?
Anyway, according to the township supervisor at Chesterfield, he contacted them to have us contracted out for $90,000 more a year for 2 full-time people to be here to only answer fires, to only answer pin-ins on PIs and CPRs. They weren't going to go on anything else. They weren't going to do anything else. He was all for that full-time, but it wasn't for us to do full-time. But anyway, I'm going to send y'all an email with all the falsehoods that I heard tonight from him. Now, I'm sure that he thought he was telling the truth, but what he said was incorrect. There was a lot of it that was incorrect. And as far as the fire that he brought up, there was a fire in town, and it was on Brookside. We have what's called a first alarm, because nobody has people anymore. Nobody has enough people, especially in the north end. But us, Chesterfield, and Baltimore, Ray Township, Richmond, and Lennox all help each other. That's what we do. The fire we had, we call the first alarm, which brings Ray Township, and it brings Lennox Township. Our guys are all packed up, ready to go in and put out the fire, but somebody had to be in charge. Well, when Lennox arrived, the chief wasn't packed up, because they usually aren't, so we asked him, the director. We know Marty for years, and he did. He orchestrated everything, and our guys went in and put out the fire. That's what we're supposed to do. What he said was we couldn't handle it. No, it's not we couldn't handle it. We had extra help. We had people that we wanted to be in charge that weren't packed up. Our guys that were in charge, our captain was in charge, he was already packed up, so it was time to send them in. And that's what we did. It's called using your brain. I have one question to you. Have you ever been a fireman?
No.
Have you ever run a fire department?
Guys, we can't be
No, have you ever run a fire department? Okay, that's all I want to know. Now, you know, we're here to serve all of you. You, everybody. We serve your family, we serve your family. In anything they need, anything from emergencies to non-emergencies. We had a lady call because she was an elderly lady and her water, this was during the winter, water was coming outside of her house. That's not our job. But we went over and helped her. You know why? Because it was on a weekend. We know it cost a fortune to get the DPW in here, and that's not their job either because it was on her house. It wasn't the city's problem. We went over, we shut it off. What had happened is it froze. Now, the only reason I'm telling that story is that's what we do. We do whatever we can to help this community. Over 800 times last year, we went to somebody's house or somebody's car to help them. Okay? And to be smirched that we couldn't handle it is bullshit, okay?
That's not what I said. That's bullshit.
You tried to contract us out, you know you did. You know you did.
Thanks, guys. All right. Any other call from the floor? Okay. Call from the table?
Just one thing, can we, Sir Matt, you said that New Street's gonna last 3 to 5 years?
I'm sorry?
You said that Manning's gonna last 3 to 5 years?
Well, extra.
Oh, extra, okay. I was gonna say, well, thank God, because I think we better start saving our money, right? I know, but the capital improvement plan that was brought up, so what do we have, what are we gonna do to make that happen? And then talk about our next streets that are gonna get fixed and how we're gonna save for that. What's our plan of action?
Our new chairperson of the CIP committee. Will be,
I'll send out emails. I'll get the ball.
I will help you.
Okay, thank you.
And what about the wetland survey?
we have not got any, anything yet for the wetland survey for the 47 acres. The letter that we had from Lombardo was that the timer for the $1 purchase starts once we receive that letter. So since we haven't received the letter, we're not against the clock yet. Admittedly, I have a meeting to follow up with them because they were saying that they were going to do it in April or May or June. They should have the results by now. So.
How long is that time run?
It was, I want to say it was like 90 days from the receipt of the letter.
I know residents are curious and asking me, and just want to make sure that.
Yeah, admittedly, I've been meaning to follow up with them on that.
Was it scheduled?
They said they were going to be doing it in April or May. So we just haven't gotten what the results are. Very cool. Any other call from the floor, or from the table? Motion order?
So moved.
Support.
Motion to adjourn at 9:28 has been moved and supported. All in favor? Aye.